In today's Ugly News, we're going to be discussing the worrying anti-sunscreen movement. For once, I'm going to be standing up for influencers. And are our sunscreens actually even protecting us? But first of all, I have to share this video. I was tagged in it literally 2 hours ago. I've talked about how AI is being used to create these fake influencers, in particular UGC creators. There are services out there now where you could pick a realistic looking model. Well, it is a real person. You could use them as your model. And then using AI, you can type out whatever it is you want your model to say about your brand, and then AI will make that model say it. And it looks super realistic. It looks very, very real and convincing. And this technology is already being used on platforms like TikTok, or where there's short form advertising content by big brands like Tinder and a lot of mobile game apps, instead of having to pay actual UGC creators. However, one of the main issues us influencers face regularly is brands who aren't well established, or like these drop shipping brands, taking our videos and cutting them up so it looks like we are using their product and then using our face to advertise their product. And every so often you'll get some comments like, oh, I didn't know you liked this brand, or I can't find that brand you were talking about in this video, in this advert. And it's like, I never talked about that brand. There's one of me floating around that comes up every year, some drop shipped serum that I think is meant to help get rid of dark spots, and it's just a video of me using an ordinary serum that they've kind of cut around so it looks real, but there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I can do about it. However, this brand I'm about to show you take it to a whole other level by cloning the influencer's voice. Abby Young is one of my favorite beauty content creators. I have learned so much about hair from her content. Her hair is the most amazing, healthiest, incredible looking hair I've ever seen, but you have to watch this video.
This brand has been trying to scam people for months by using a video of me that they altered with AI.
This is what they used to look like, and this is what they look like now without any makeup on. It's all because of this product I found online.
This is not my voice.
It uses red light therapy and microcurrents to remove the
Never
bags
said any of
under
this.
our eyes. I saw a bunch of other women using it, and after seeing their transformation, I knew I had to try it for myself.
You might see that and be like, okay, whatever, it's not that big of a deal. But I have had countless people message me and be like, oh, I didn't know you recommended this product, but I'll buy it because I love everything you recommend. But I don't even know what this is.
So as you heard, her voice has been cloned. It does sound slightly off, right? Though there's something not quite right about it. But had I not been told that that wasn't her voice, that was a cloned voice, I probably wouldn't have noticed. Now, I must be honest, I have used this technology before. I do currently use this technology. I have used a service where I clone my voice. I use it very rarely. For example, if I'm recording some short form branded content and they needed me to include a word, or I need to change a sentence, and I'm not in my studio, I can type out that sentence, get the audio of me saying it, and then put it into the video. And it's so easy to do. All I had to do was read a paragraph from this website, and then they cloned my voice. For example, this is a cloned version of my voice. Would you be able to tell if I hadn't told you? Another way to do this, however, is to take a 10-minute video or so. They often ask for 10 minutes of somebody speaking. So you can take 10 minutes worth of a creator's content, put it into this software, and from that it can clone their voice, sometimes even matching their cadence. Now, surely this is illegal. No, this must be illegal, using someone else's image and voice to sell a product that they didn't even use. Well, when it comes to AI in particular, this technology is so new, it's advancing so quickly that there aren't so many laws in place right now, or the law is struggling to keep up. But certain governments around the world are working relatively quickly to try and crack down on this. And whilst there are certain policies being brought in and certain acts being brought in places like the UK, America, parts of Europe, it's actually India who have really been the first to mention content creators and influencers as a group who are likely to be affected and need protecting from AI. With the Economic Times of India stating the government moved to introduce an artificial intelligence law that will safeguard the commercial and creative interests of content creators, including new publishers, with legal experts saying it's a timely move amid rapid expansion of AI-generated content that could significantly impact the publishing industry and has led to concerns over copyright infringements. Now, no one really knows what this law is going to look like just yet, purely because of how AI works, which is essentially using a ton of copyrighted material online. Like we see this when it comes to graphic design and art done by AI, is that it's using real artist's work to create this new work. So this law is somehow gonna have to take into consideration that AI is a massive copyright infringement, but then come to some kind of mutual understanding with those whose work is copyrighted in order to make that new content fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is what I mean. People don't really know how this law is gonna work just yet, but something needs to be put into place. I don't know. It's very confusing and somewhat worrying. A big section of today's video is gonna be talking about sunscreen, skin cancer, and this new worrying upspike, I don't know, in this anti-sunscreen movement that we maybe saw 5-10 years ago. Nara Smith on TikTok, who, no matter what you think about her and her lifestyle, makes these amazingly aesthetically pleasing kind of DIY recipes. I'll be honest, that's the level of what I know about her. It's kind of like family life in this kind of very unbelievable yet aesthetically pleasing situation. I don't know. I'm sick still. I don't really know what I'm talking about. She's married to Lucky Blue Smith, who used to be a model. I don't know if he still is. Anyway, this is not about what you think about them, what their content is, blah, blah, blah. This is a video they posted recently about an easy to make DIY sunscreen recipe. Let's watch. So in this video, you can kind of see them using things like, I believe it's like coconut oil, basically some oils you find in your kitchen, and zinc oxide powder, I believe it is they're using, in order to make a DIY sunscreen. This is so fucking worrying, and I know I'm preaching to the choir again. DIY sunscreen doesn't exist. Coconut oil doesn't have an SPF factor, no matter what people say. It's like 3 or something, and then that's not really how it works. People are like, you know, raspberry oil, and you cannot just put zinc into oil and mix it and say that you have a mineral sunscreen. Again, that's not how zinc works. That's not how creating products work. Sunscreen wouldn't have to go through such a rigorous testing method and approvals and all that kind of stuff if you can just make it at home by mixing it with a whisk. What's even more worrying is in the comment section. Actually, there's 2 sides to this. There are so many people that are like, please don't do this. This is not how it works. Everyone's like, DIY sunscreen is not good. Nara, this is too far. Someone said how to make a Zempic from scratch. But then there's some people that are like, I didn't even know you could make sunscreen from scratch. Some people are like, homemade sunscreen, amazing. And then luckily we have a lot of chemists, a lot of estheticians, a lot of professionals in the comments saying really nicely, like, this is why it's not working. For example, Cherie Cosmetic Chemist on TikTok says, it didn't leave a white cast because the zinc oxide is not a stable emulsion. It's settled at the bottom of the jar, which also means it's not providing any S protection whatsoever. Jane the Chemist says DIY sunscreen is not efficacious. Sunscreen is regulated as a drug and goes through a ton of testing. Love you and your content, but please not this. To me, what's even a step even more worrying is that the professionals who are kind of like debunking this and being so respectful as usual and saying, listen, like Nara, we love your content, but this is really, really dangerous. And people in their comments are then like, no, this is a reach. You're just jealous. You don't like the girl. It's like, no, this is dangerous. They also have children. And I don't care what you think. Like, I'm not into conspiracies. I don't care if you think you're getting cancer from sunscreen. When it comes to kids, cover them up. Cover them the fuck up, but don't put DIY sunscreen on them and then think it's going to protect them. If you don't want to use sunscreen on your kids, cover them the fuck up. What's even worse, I think they might have deleted their comment now. Did I screenshot it in time? I think they deleted it, but Kiehl's left a comment on the video saying something like, homemade sunscreen, love to see it, or something like that. And everyone's like, Kiehl's, what the fuck? What the fuck? For a brand who like claim to be steeped in science, and you know, I don't like Kiehl's, but you know, they're a fine enough brand. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And it looks like they have now deleted their comment. And why do we wear sunscreen? Because of skin cancer. Yes, there are some great anti-aging benefits. Excuse me, I must rehydrate. But skin cancer, especially if you love going outside and being active outside, you should wear sunscreen because of skin cancer. Kevin Jonas of the Jonas Brothers recently posted about his experience having his basal cell carcinoma removed over on Instagram, reminding his fans in his caption to make sure you get those moles checked, people. So basal cell carcinoma is a type of skin cancer that develops on areas of the skin exposed to the sun, primarily, I guess, on your face where we see a lot of it. So Kevin shared his experience and reminded people to get checked. It was all very quick. I think that was what was very good about the experience he shared, is that he made it look like, you know, you go in, you get checked, It's found, early stage, booked in for surgery. It takes a minute to remove. There's nothing to worry about. Like if you see something interesting or something you're not too sure about, go and get it checked. But he is not the only celebrity who has shared his experience with sun-related skin cancer this year alone. Supermodel Christine Brinkley shared her experience with skin cancer after she had an operation back in March of this year to have her skin cancer removed, and said straight out on her Instagram that's because she wasn't wearing enough sunscreen. She also mentioned, you know, it wasn't just about skin cancer, but the hyperpigmentation that she's now left with because of it, which affects her modeling jobs. And her basal cell carcinoma, I'm gonna call it BCC from now on, was actually discovered after she accompanied one of her daughters to her dermatologist appointment. And, you know, while her daughter was getting checked out, she was thinking, you know, I've got like a little weird thing on my face. Maybe I should just ask him to check it out real quick. And luckily she did, because the moment he checked out the little area that she was concerned about, he was like, we need to get this biopsied right away. And it came back positive for cancer. Her surgery was successful, with Brinkley saying, I can't say it enough. Sunblock and a hat will do more for you than anything else. There's also, I can't remember his name, a very popular Vine guy who I believe must now be on TikTok, but a podcaster, Matt, I want to say, recently announced as well that he has the same thing. He found a weird little area of skin. He mentioned that he's very light, fair-skinned, has a few moles, so it's very, very important to get those checked. Now, one thing that I'm not gonna stand for as an influencer is influencers doing stupid shit, but also the internet blaming influencers for stupid shit. People magazine have recently blamed influencers for misinformation surrounding sunscreen. They posted this article very recently entitled "Influencers are spreading dangerous misinformation by saying sunscreen causes cancer and people believe them," which is true, but there's a reason I take issue with this. Now, People magazine comment that influencers like Riley Check, who posts on X under his username Holistic Grenade, broadcast misleading statements like people who wear sunscreen are always getting cancer, and that tweet had nearly 60,000 views. They also share a Welsh known creator called Gubba Homestead, who looks burnt to fuck, let's be honest, saying, I don't wear sunscreen and I never will. We blame the sun for cancer when we should be blaming our diets. Sunscreen and a poor diet will make you sick. I'm pretty sure her account has been banned a few times, or her videos get banned fairly often, but these two are very extreme examples. When you look at both their profiles, they're essentially conspiracy theorists, right? The guy is like, Big Pharma's trying to kill you. We should all eat rocks and meat and bathe in milk and shit. And the other content creator is pretty much the same thing, lives on a farm on a diet of grass and raw milk. That stuff, you know. All terrifying shit. But in lesser examples than that, the idea that sunscreen is bad for you is still present, especially on TikTok, where it seems to be getting a rise in popularity again, almost like we saw way back in the day, like 5-10 years ago, before these like real science educators and dermatologists came online and started talking about the importance of sunscreen. And in the last few months in particular, I feel like I've been going back and forth with people in like the comments section on a few particular topics. One, sunblock is better than sunscreen because sunblock is a mineral sunscreen and mineral sunscreen doesn't penetrate the skin. Not true. So people think mineral sunscreen is sunblock, which used to be the term, but sunblock is a term that was banned a fair few years ago by the FDA because it suggests that sunblock can literally block UVA rays from your skin, which it doesn't. Mineral sunscreens work in pretty much the same way chemical sunscreens does, by absorbing the heat. It does not work like a shield, so the term sunblock is no longer allowed to be used. People are also saying your diet is what makes your skin susceptible to cancer. No evidence of this. There's this whole thing about seed oils, which Dr. Michelle Wong has debunked in a very good video, go check it out. And thirdly, sunscreen gives you cancer, not the sun. No matter what your belief is, there is no evidence, there are no reports of sunscreen giving you cancer at all. So yes, these are influencers saying this. And I just want to say as well, I don't know what the threshold is for an influencer, but I think on TikTok where anybody's video can blow up, these aren't necessarily people with huge followings. A lot of these people are like 1,000 followers and they post like a video that gets maybe like 10 views, but then the odd one peddling things like sunscreen gives you cancer will blow up. So it's not like these big names the majority of the time are saying this stuff. Not that that really matters, as I mentioned, in a time where anybody's video anywhere can blow up. But where are they getting this misinformation from to spread? Experts or self-proclaimed experts. People with a title. Now, I made a list of self-proclaimed experts and their titles who I've seen spreading false information about sunscreen. This is just in the last 2 days alone. Obviously, the top one being dermatologists. This isn't to say that dermatologists all say this shit. It's just because they obviously talk about skincare, so they're going to be the main ones spreading this misinformation if they are doing so. However, 99.9% of dermatologists encourage you to wear sunscreen. However, there are some who still are saying mineral sunscreens are better because they don't absorb into the skin and block UV rays. Estheticians. This is an odd one because I don't want to say this because this is going to sound really, really rude and mean, but part of me wants to be trained as an esthetician because I want to see what they actually learn. There are some amazing estheticians online, I will say mainly English ones, who have the science down to a T. They keep up with the science. They know what's bullshit, what's not. They have other areas of expertise. It's honestly these American estheticians who sell medical grade skincare that still believe skincare myths from 10 years ago that push these sunscreen myths. Other titles include brain health practitioner, holistic beauty expert, holistic surgeon. This particular holistic surgeon still demonizes parabens, chemist, pharmacist, skincare gurus, nutritionist, nutrition student, neuroscientist, holistic doctor, and doctors in family medicine. And you know, fans of beauty like us and other skincare enthusiasts, we understand that half these people aren't qualified to discuss toxicology, even skincare product chemistry, to the average consumer of both cosmetics and media. Some of these titles sound very legit, however, especially if they have a doctor title or a title that suggests a scientific background. These are the people making these videos, being quoted in articles about the hazards of sunscreen, then this is being believed by influencers, content creators, and the clean living cult. They aren't picking this shit out of nowhere. A good example of this is this dermatologist video, right, telling you to stop using specific sunscreens due to possible carcinogens and pointing at sunscreens with the hashtag skin cancer. Terrifying when you first look at it, right? You see a doctor, a dermatologist of all doctors, telling you that these sunscreens are carcinogenic. What are you going to think? However, when you go to the comments, this doctor does explain, I quote, "It was mentioned daily levels of benzene which were detected would not have been expected to cause adverse health consequences. The sunscreens were therefore recalled in an abundance of caution." So why not mention that? Why not mention that right at the beginning of the video, or base that on what the video is about? Not throw these sunscreens away because they're going to give you cancer. This should be the first thing mentioned. And then when we obviously go and look in the comments of this video, it's people like, "I knew it, sunscreen causes cancer. Thanks for telling the truth, doc." Like all this kind of stuff, when that's not what is happening here. This is what adds to that fear mongering, that fear of sunscreens giving you cancer. A doctor wearing scrubs, making you believe this is what the case is. And even telling you to throw them away and use other sunscreens when you could have easily carried on using these sunscreens if you had them without any issues. But we saw this most recently with the benzene carcinogen in benzoyl peroxide products. An article was posted by a dodgy lab that showed cancer-causing benzene was found in benzoyl peroxide, you know, like acne products. So then a ton of doctors jumped onto TikTok to point at things again and tell everyone to throw away their cancer-causing acne products. However, had they waited 2 hours or 24 hours and waited for people who actually understood how to read these studies to break down all the massive issues behind this study, they would have seen that this study was dodgy, pointless. They heated up these products to a very unrealistic amount, you know, not reflective of how these products will ever be stored, not even in a warm bathroom, just not reflective of how these products are used day to day, which is in a safe way, you know, when stored properly. Dr. Michelle Wong, of course, made a great point that the amount of benzene found in these products is actually less than the amount of benzene that you get from simply breathing air. But it's too late. Your average consumer has seen these doctors telling you that these products are causing cancer and to throw them away. A lot of these dermatologists, a lot of these doctors deleted these videos swiftly after, but it was too late. So yes, in my opinion, influencers are posting this stuff, but they are simply repeating what they have heard from who they believe are the voice of authorities in the industry. That being said, a few sunscreens have just failed a sunscreen test, declaring them unfit for usage. So for those of you who are outside of the UK, I think Which might be in America actually. I can't remember. Which is a UK brand that does things like independent testing on consumer goods, highlighting inferior products or services, raising awareness of consumer rights, and offering independent advice to consumers. And they recently announced that 3 very popular sunscreen brands have failed independent tests showing that their sunscreens offer less protection than advertised. Now, those 3 sunscreens being Calypso Sun Press and Protect Sun Lotion, as the Protect Moisturizing Sun Lotion, and the super viral Bondi Sands SPF 50+ Face Sunscreen Lotion, with brands like Lidl, Aldi, Nivea, Boots, and Garnier passing their tests. Now, a spokesperson for which said to the BBC, "It's incredibly concerning that some of these big brands failed our tests and did not offer the level of sun protection they claimed on the packaging. However, it's great to see cheaper, top quality sunscreen options available on the high street and in supermarkets at a time where shoppers need affordable options. Our results prove that there is no need to splash out to keep you and your loved ones safe in the sun this summer, and that many supermarket owned by brands products can do a good job." But things start to get a little bit questionable. A spokesperson for Asda, a supermarket chain here in the UK, whose Protect Moisturizing Sun Lotion failed witches tests, basically said something's not right here. They told the BBC that not only had they recently had their own sunscreen tested by a leading external provider using internationally recognized testing methods that confirmed their sunscreen had a factor of 31.5 protection, but which had actually tested their sunscreen 2 years ago and it had passed with flying colors. They say the product formulation has not changed since then, so we would question the validity of their tests. Bondi Sands were replying to comments on their Instagram regarding this, saying, "Sunscreens and all cosmetic products placed on UK market must comply with strict UK cosmetics law, known as the UK Cosmetics Regulation. All our products undergo rigorous testing processes to ensure they meet and exceed these industry standards, and all our product claims are substantiated with robust evidence. This also applies to Bondi Sands SPF 50+ fragrance-free face sunscreen lotion. You can therefore be confident that our sunscreen delivers the SPF you expected when applied as instructed on the label." Now, this is an interesting topic because we have seen this issue before with Korean sunscreens. This was mainly due to a particular lab, I believe it was. I'll have a whole video on this at one point, but there are a few things we need to consider here. One being that we can't take their independent tests at face value when they also have all been independently tested and match their advertising SPF ratings. There can be many reasons why they failed this one time when tested, and whilst they do show us the process of their testing, they haven't shared their exact findings. 2, this article was initially behind a paywall, which why would Which do that? They're meant to have the best interest of the general public at heart kind of thing. In my opinion, they do this to scare people into thinking their sunscreens aren't working, make them pay to see which ones do work, and then affiliate link those links. I didn't realize any of this until seeing Caroline Hiron's Instagram stories where she was basically telling off Which, saying that this is like a public safety issue we shouldn't be putting behind a paywall, which agreed and then made the article free. And also, people have been using these particular sunscreens for years without any issues, unlike the Korean sunscreen controversy from a few years back where people were starting to get easily burnt when using these sunscreens. Should you throw these sunscreens away if you have them? No, absolutely not. But maybe we should keep an eye on these sunscreens just for future statements from these brands regarding these tests, you know? But by all means, if it makes you feel better, switch up your sunscreens. I will just say that this time of year we do see a lot of articles like this, so be wary, use what works for you. Let me know what you think about these stories in the comments down below. You can watch some more ugly news here, some general light entertainment here, and I'll see you over there.